Morning, everyone. Hi there. My name is Peter Clark. I own a company called Tech Ally. It's a IT support company at its most basic piece. But moreover, what I try to do is I try to help small businesses specifically with all their technology problems. Basically, I want small businesses around here to concentrate on what they're good at versus growing their business and whatnot, versus the technology and everything that they can need behind them to help them achieve their goals. So I do my best to work with people to become as successful as they can. And that's one way in which I measure my success, is how successful my partners are, basically. I want to thank Clarissa and the Oasis program for this opportunity. It's good to be able to talk to people and connect with people. This is kind of my dream. I get to go into the basement and hide away. I'm an introvert at heart. Stuff like this is difficult for me, but it's something I got to do better. And so this is a good opportunity to do so. So during this whole COVID crisis, or whatever it is, business has changed a little bit. I had a few new clients I was working on to try to get onboarded, and that kind of just stopped once everything stopped. It's become very odd. Just all of a sudden, all my clients initially took a step back and were a bit worried with was about to come. I worked with a few of them to set them up so they could work remotely. Funny, one client I had, it was just the week before I'd finally gotten everything in place so they could actually work remotely. At the time, they didn't really realize why they needed it or why we were doing it. But then this all happened, and all of a sudden, all their employees had to work from home. And thankfully, like I said, the week before, we'd gone over how to do it all and how they could do it and how they could communicate with each other well offsite, and it worked great. So they're very thankful that we had all that stuff put into place when we did. Some of my clients have had extended close times. That's been difficult for them, obviously. But one of the things I've done as a company is to really work with each of my clients on a separate basis and look at what they need, and if they're tight on cash, whether to reduce their services a little bit, if they're closed outright, putting them on a pay deferral plan, and reducing their services and whatnot. Just because my business success relies on my clients being successful. So I really wanted to make sure that I take care of all my clients to the best of my ability. One of my main ways of standing out amongst other people in my space is just top-notch customer service, and really being there and really becoming a part of each one of my clients' companies and understanding what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve and working with them to achieve those goals. So the first couple weeks of COVID, it was really crazy. You add in that all of a sudden I'm working from home. My wife thankfully can work remotely as well. But then we had our 5-year-old son thrown into the mix once he was taken out of school. It's been difficult, no doubt, but we've survived it. We're doing the juggle as everyone else is. But it's nice. It's nice being able to spend more time with my son and my wife and still work on things. It's been, those first couple of weeks was a bit crazy, just everyone being worried and not really understanding how things were going to work. We worked through it with a bunch of them and got them up and running to the best that we could within the situation that we had. And then I would say after a couple of weeks, it became a bit quieter. And that surprised me actually a little bit. I thought it was just going to be a constant go, 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 go. And it got a bit quieter. And on some of the forums where I talk to other people who do what I do, they've noticed the same thing. And one of it, I think, is that hopefully I did a good job and everything just works well and I'm just not getting calls because everything's working great. That's somewhat to do with it, but I don't think that's all to do with it. But I think that people really are working differently and it's tough. It's tough to do a full day's work and all this kind of stuff when you're not in the environment that you're used to doing that work in. So after those first couple of weeks, I found some extra time on my hands, and there's a few things that I've done with that time, which I'll share with you. And then after that, I'll share just some security tips for everyone on how to be safe on the internet during this time and during all times, I guess. But so the last couple of weeks of some of the things I've been working on for my company specifically, one is documentation. Documentation is one of those things that's tough to do, but I really need to keep on top of it in order to make my business successful. So I need to be able to say to someone else, here's the information on this client and everything you need to know is in there. If something were to happen to me, I have a partner who I can tell my wife to say, okay, just go take all this stuff, take to him and he'll know what to do with it. So documentation is key because if you have employees, you need to document what they're doing. If you don't have employees or it's just you putting everything together, you need some way to be able to have something in place in case something happens so other people know where to pick up and where to go from there. Second thing I've been doing is automating as much as I can. One of the things I do for a lot of clients is look at their processes and what they're doing and make it so they can do more with less. So as an example, with some of the automation stuff that I've been doing, it's one of my big things is invoicing. I invoice once a month, usually at the beginning of the month. And it used to take me about a half day or so to go through and get each client's invoice together, make sure it's right, set up the link so they could pay me by credit card if they wanted to, send that email out and whatnot. Some of the programs out there will do it all, but the systems that I have in order to keep track of all this kind of stuff are all separate. So I spent some time tying all those systems together. And just yesterday, I finished off another aspect of it, and basically that went into my management platform where it keeps all the hours that I spent doing things and whatnot, and pulling that information out and the invoice out of there, going to where I accept credit cards, creating the link so they can just click on a link and enter their credit card number to pay me. So it's easy for them to pay me, and then grab all that information, put it in an email, send them the PDF of the invoice with the link where they can click on and whatnot. That whole, by writing a program to tie all this stuff together, now my invoicing only takes me about an hour a month. So it's for the 6 or 7 hours total that I put into automating this process, I've now saved myself about 4 hours a month indefinitely. And that stuff adds up. And if there's a task that you do and you do it more than once, it's something that could be a good candidate for automating it. It makes a big difference at the end of the day on how much time you have to do the things that you want to do. If you can just automate the boring, repetitive stuff away. And the third big thing that I found with myself and my business during all this is I use my routine change for good. Basically, I've changed. One of the big things I've done is I quit smoking during this time, and some people think I'm a bit crazy for doing that, but it was one of those. To me, that was something that was always difficult for me to do because I was always set in my routine, and these are the things that I've been doing for years and years and years, and it's hard to break out of that routine. And so since this COVID-19 came, my routine just got thrown up in the air and taken apart. So I've taken this opportunity to quit smoking because I didn't known for years that it's something that I should do for myself, for my family, for my health. But it's always been difficult. So it's still difficult now, but as I'm building up a new routine, I'm taking that out of it. So for the long run, that's going to make a huge difference. I've been thinking about getting in to do more exercise, but I'm just taking things one step at a time. I'll tackle the smoking first. But it's all this stuff is going to make a huge difference when this is all over. And this is lasting stuff that will make a difference for me and my business and everything else well beyond and into the future. So those are just the three major things I've noticed from my business. I'm not a business expert. I'm not. These are just the things that I've come up with, and hopefully some of you find some useful info in there. One of the things that Chris mentioned is maybe giving it some like cybersecurity tips to everyone. My background being in security for many years, I've been doing this for probably 20, 25 years now. And it's something that I really focus on for my clients is making sure that they're secure. And one of the things that we're facing on the internet every day is what we're facing now in real life. It's viruses and bad stuff happening, and we need to practice good computing hygiene as well as we have to practice good physical hygiene now. So security is one of those things. It's often thought that I'm not the target. People aren't out here to get me. They're not. Why would they target me? I'm just a small business. And what I say to that is, you're just the fact that you're on a computer and on the internet makes you a target. These things, people aren't discriminatory when they do these things. They send out an attack far and wide, hoping that they'll get the low hanging fruit. So your small businesses, businesses of any size, are a huge risk from these security type things. There's viruses and malware. They've been around for forever, whether it's someone putting a Trojan on your system to get information that you're typing in, or stealing information from you, or anything like that. The latest trends are things like ransomware, which are really scary, because if you think about it, in one day, you could come into your office and all of a sudden you have none of your information anymore. And that's hard for a lot of companies to get over. And there's a significant amount of businesses that eventually go out of business very soon after being hit by a ransomware attack if they're not actually prepared for it. Phishing, trying to get your credentials to either send out spam, send out other viruses, whatnot, trying to get that, use your persona as something that they could use to exploit the trust of someone else. Letting your guard down can really hurt your business, and how you're perceived in your community. So I had a list of 31 things, which is too many for something like this. So I just pulled out the top 5 things that that are really easy to do, that can help your security posture of your business, and help make sure that you're practicing proper hygiene, computing hygiene on the internet, and help protect yourself against any of these threats happening. The first are backups. You got to back up everything. Just because you're using a cloud service like OneDrive or Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that doesn't mean that your stuff's backed up. These cloud services, they have what they call retention. So if you delete something or change something, they'll retain that change for 30 days. After that, it's gone. But they make no claim that they're backing up or keeping your information safe beyond the very basic level. So if you want to ensure that you always have access to that information, you need to back it up both to a external hard drive or another online service that you can get access to later. It's the only way really to recover from these things like ransomware attacks and whatnot, and even just mistakes within your organization itself. So if someone accidentally deletes a file, what happens in 6 months when you finally realize that it was deleted? If you don't have a good backup, it's gone forever. So it can save you a lot of time and a lot of hassle like that. The second thing is antivirus and anti-malware programs. You have to have them on your systems, whether they're Macs, whether they're Windows. Just about every device needs it. I got it on my phone as well. These things, there's threats out there every day, and all these antivirus programs and anti-malware programs aren't made the same. There's the free ones are okay, but they're really not that good. It's something that's worth spending the money on to be properly protected. This is your mask wearing, hand washing, stuff like that. This is stuff that helps keep you safe the best that it can. It's not 100% solution, but it does make a huge difference. You need to make sure that it's updated regularly, and that you don't shut it off because it's making your system run slow or do anything like that. This is really something that needs to be on all your devices all the time to keep yourself protected. The third thing is use different passwords everywhere. Over the years, there's been many websites that have been hacked and their credentials have been dumped. And so if you were on LinkedIn 4 years ago, your password is out there now. And you'll start seeing the stuff through some of the spam emails that you'll get that try to convince you to do something. So it's like the most recent example is, I think there's one that goes around that tries to extort you into paying someone Bitcoin. And they start off and say, here's your password. I know who you are. This is your password. I saw you doing something on a webcam, and pay me so many Bitcoin, or I'll send this stuff to everyone that you know. They don't have you on webcam. They don't have any of this kind of stuff. They just found your password, but that gives them a bit more legitimacy in people's minds. If they're like, oh my goodness, they do have my password. Maybe they do have something. And if you're using the same password on all these sites, it allows someone to be able to say, okay, well, here's this person's email and login for this site. Let's see if it works on this other site. And I know lots of businesses use the same password or the same similar password for just about everything. And it's something that we try to really work at breaking that habit. There's lots of programs out there called password managers. There's 1Password, LastPass, Keypass. These are all programs that will help you keep separate passwords. So I use a program I use regularly. It's called Keypass. It's something that sits on my computer. The database is encrypted. I put it up on my OneDrive so I can access it from my phone or wherever I am. But it allows me to make really big, complex passwords for everything, and it allows me to have a different password for every service. So if something does get compromised, that means that the person who compromised it then can't get into the rest of my accounts. So I have the database itself is encrypted with one really long, ridiculous password that's easy for me to remember, and it's really hard to guess and it's really hard to crack. And that just allows me to have access to all the passwords that I have, and I have a million of them. And it just makes my life so much easier. Not having to worry about if this service does get compromised, I don't have to worry about then going and changing my password everywhere else because my password's already changed everywhere else. The next thing is two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. If the service that you have offers it, you should be using it. Office 365 offers it, Google offers it, Facebook offers it. All these services offer these multi-factor authentication mechanisms. What this does is if someone does get the password to your account, it helps prevent them from actually getting into the account because they need the second factor there, whether it's a code that you get on your phone or something that they SMS you or an email that they send you. This is what stops a lot of these things. When people are out there trying to gather your credentials, your credential is useless if you don't have that second factor. So I strongly recommend that everyone turn that on and use it. It adds a little bit of extra time and pain when you are logging into these services, but after you're using it for a little bit, you don't even realize it anymore, and it can really save your skin. And the last thing I have is trust but validate. We're all very trusting people, and we want to help people, and especially now, if you get an email from someone, how do you know it's that person? Because people can spoof who they are and whatnot. So you still need to trust people in order to get things to make the world move, but validate things. So in my case, if I have someone who sends me an email asking to reset their password on whatever service, I'll say, okay, I'll call them at the number that I know that they are and say, okay, hey, how's it going? You wanted your password to reset? Yes. Okay, here it is. I reset it for you. I don't go back on the same service that they messaged me to get that password changed. This happens with things like there's scams out there that look for like these gift card scams, or people will ask you to change the bank account that this thing goes into or whatnot. This is what stops that. Is like, yes, these requests can come in. Yes, they can be valid, but validate it before you do it. Talk to that person on the phone through a known way of communicating with them that isn't the one that the request came in on, to ensure that it is the person and it is what they wanted to do. Anyways, I think I'm at my time limit. Thanks a lot. One thing I wanted to offer to anyone who's part of the Oasis program, or even if you're not, is I do have an online security awareness training program that I'm willing to offer free to everyone. It takes about an hour to go through, and there's a little test, but it helps go over these things that I just mentioned, and can make a real difference in your business and how secure you are and how prepared you are for stuff like this. So if you're interested in any of that, reach out to me and I'd be happy to get you set up. It's not trying to sell you anything or anything like that. It's just information I want to get out there, because us as small businesses, we are at risk, and a lot of people don't realize it. So I just want to help bring that level of knowledge up a bit, so everyone stays safe. Anyways, thanks a lot. Have a great week. Thanks, of course, for the opportunity to do this, and stay safe.